raised in the city. I feel I can do things. It's not always pretty, but something draws me here. It's a feeling I can be. The sky is brown purple and most are miserable. There's light in the darkest sphere, deflected by saltwater tears. Watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me. You hit bodies while we hit streams. Say it's for our protection. When was it just your decision? Watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me. You hit bodies while we hit streams. Say it's for our protection. When was it just your decision? It's in the city where strangers we do things. We're told to be happy. It's something that we share. Love, like hate and despair. Cracks, they are crowded, and screams, they are muted, and finally you feel fear. But it always has been here. I'm watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me, watching you, watching me. You hit bodies while we hit streams. Say it's for our protection. When was it just your decision?
Ladies and gentlemen, by order of the Toronto Love Police Department, this area has been designated a potential trouble spot. We ask you to buy all the ridiculous, useless material objects you need, then make your way home quickly and watch television. Do not rock the boat. Do not ask difficult questions. If you require answers, the CBC and your other propaganda channels have all the answers for you. Do not think for yourself. It is time-consuming and boring. Let the mainstream corporate-controlled media do your thinking for you.
Some of the police are on a power trip. They think that because we're just sitting in a park that we're doing something wrong. You know what I mean? They've searched all the parks, they're searching the bushes, they're doing what they have to do. We understand all that, but I think that the money that they've spent on this is absolutely ridiculous. I've read the statistics in the other countries, and the amount of money they've spent on security, it's not even half of what Canada has spent. And you know what? As it is, we have a new tax coming in, the HST. They're just trying to get us any way they can. I spent 15 years in prison for a charge that I should have never went to jail for in the first place. And I can tell you about how the system works in the police and the guards and all the correctional Canada services. It sucks. Believe me, it turns you into a monster. I went to jail when I was 15 years old for manslaughter. I was walking through an alleyway. I had on a little skirt. I was going to Catholic school at the time. And I was walking through an alleyway. A guy grabbed me, he raped me. And he was going to kill me. He was just a matter, he dropped the knife and I kicked him in the balls and I grabbed the knife and I got him in the jugular. I got 15 years for that. I did 15 years in prison for that. I did 13 out of the 15. Then as the years went on, it got worse and it got worse and it got worse. I got more violent. I attacked a federal guard in one of the jails and they ended up flying me out to Saskatchewan where I did 5 years in the SHU program out there, which is 23.5-hour lockdown a day, and I spent 7 years in there. And then you're supposed to be normal after that.
And most of some of the guards too, they.
So when I see the police presence around, it scares me too, because I also know the shit that I've gone through and the stuff that they're capable of doing, and it scares the shit out of me.
And they do rape you.
And well, we won't get into all that. I don't want to get into all that. The point of that is that
the guards.
That's happened to me a few times.
Okay.
But anyways, the point of the fact is that this G20 summit, I think if they should have picked a different country. Canada is supposed to be a peacekeeping country.
Globalization is good for business. Please get your credit cards out and make your way quickly to your next shopping experience. That way you can find salvation and happiness. Enter one of the big malls. These are your new temples. You are not beautiful and unique snowflakes. You are flesh and blood consumers.
I first come down here in Toronto, downtown Sherbourne Queen. I was 17 years old. I worked on the Great Lakes, and I always liked Moss Park. Always. I like the people down here. I've known a lot of people down here for years. That G20 summit to me is a waste. Like, I cannot. Like, if it's down there where the government building's at, the Queen's Park, well, barricade that. Don't barricade us up here. We're 4 blocks away, man. We're not doing a thing. I've been there, like I said, the same people. We do the same thing, sit in the park. You see us with guns or bombs? No. But it's down there, like yesterday and the day before, there were 17 SUVs right here with 4 officers in each one, ready to kill. I don't think it's right. To me, all that money, $1.2 billion in 3 days, you can do a lot with that for the homeless people, or anybody for that matter. That's a lot of money just for security, and which is going to be over that. I don't give a goddamn. You probably never know the true price what that's going to cost. I say it's going to be higher than 1.2 billion. Like you're looking at 11,000 something, or not more. Who knows how many? It could be 20,000, 30,000. Who knows?
Policemen, you mean?
Well, whatever the fuck they are, undercovers, I guess, or they're soldiers, I guess, snipers. The way they're, put it this way, they're not no ordinary cops. Not the way they're dressed and the way they're going around. They're big boys. You're here for a mission, don't worry.
messages today are very clear. We want to say to Stephen Harper how disgraceful it is that the First Nations peoples in this country of ours are living in abject poverty, and 100 communities are living without drinking water on a daily basis. Instead of spending $1 billion on security, we could have gone and built water treatment plants right across this province, such that our native children can actually live in health and have a decent standard of living. And instead, we're faced with water cannons, we're faced with sonic cannons, we're faced with rubber bullets and plastic bullets. 19,000 security forces, special armed forces from the Canadian Armed Forces. Sisters and brothers, our city is under siege. It wasn't the workers of the world or the workers of Canada that caused this financial crisis. We don't want to see a transferring of wealth from the public sector into the hands of the financial private sector. Let the corporate sector, let the financial sector pay for the economic crisis that they have created.
Right here in Ontario, they've made cuts to cultural studies at McMaster University. They've made cuts to women's studies at Guelph. They've made cuts to Caribbean studies at Ryerson. They've made cuts to the theater school at Ryerson. They've made cuts to disability studies at U of T, and everywhere. The fine arts are chronically underfunded. As our public institutions become private schools of business, students are losing the tools that we need to analyze and criticize the status quo. Yeah. How can we begin to envision a better world when the same free market doctrine is continually being shoved down our throats in ballooning business programs? Yeah. And today, class, welcome to Introduction to Democracy.
Somebody, right?
There's a big group of black rock there. They decided to come on our side, storm here. We're going to walk in the end. Behind the right guys, all right? There's an entry there? Yeah, we can pull the barricades away on that side. Okay.
Number 76, we love you! Number 94, we love you! Number 69, we love you! Number 65, we love you!
Here, come this way.
Clear some space, please.
Clear a space!
Get out of the way.
Clear a space!
Move.
Really badly, needs an ambulance.
But there's a very special kind of context for demonstrations, which is that if an area gets declared a riot zone, like currently the south side of Queen's Park is here, then ambulances will not come into this area. And so despite the fact that we're basically steps away from the largest hospitals in the entire country, we may not actually be able to get emergency medical care here. And then coupled with obviously a real heightened risk, you look at the weapons that the police have arrayed against the protesters here, that combination can be really problematic.
How did Toronto Street Medics form?
Well, there was a group called TO Medics, which was a group of activists, first aiders, that was active in the late 90s through to about 2001. A large contingent from Toronto went to Quebec City for the FTA meetings there. By and large, there were individual kind of first aiders helping with things like the anti-war movement and that kind of thing, but this is really the first big thing for Toronto in a long time, and it has reinvigorated the street medics.
Tell the truth and expose the lies of those pirate banksters and their toady politicians and do their bidding. I think they could have spent the $1.3 billion on social services. And this is our neighbors, our friends, our community. There's no reason to be afraid of us, but they're very afraid of me.
Do you have a posse with you in the streets today?
I do have a posse, but I've lost my posse. I've lost my posse.
Well, let's hope you find them.
I hope I find them too.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaste, and that means I honor the light within you and be safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let's get a shot. Let's get a shot.
Do not go left!
Today?
Because the G20 is increasingly creating situations for women and children, working class, working poor people, racialized people, non-status people, and where we have no justice, no rights. That's why I'm in the streets. But in context of gender justice, I mean, for me, it's pretty obvious. The feminization of poverty, rape as a tool for war, women's experiences of like all sorts of like violence, I mean, it goes on and on. Reproductive rights in and of itself, 40 white men are making decisions for most people of the world who are women, people of color, poor, people with different abilities or different challenges. Like, this is bullshit. And what's sad is that, like, they have all the guns and money, and all we have is the people power. And because of the way the capitalist world works, guns and money often outweigh, like, people power, and of course there are few of them and there are many of us. And so this whole city has been created a culture of fear for weeks now.
There's concern, I guess, that all these policies are linked to immigration, and that our immigration borders have become restrictive, extremely restrictive. Particularly the work that we do is around migrant workers, and we know that there's going to be increasing migrant, particularly temporary foreign workers, guest workers, indentured workers working here in Canada as a result of G20 policies. That trade liberalization has meant more people working under poor conditions, under quote-unquote vulnerable, precarious positions because of lack of enforcement of labor laws, and we're seeing that's just racist and sexist and colonialist, and that we won't tolerate or support any of these practices.
The people have had it. 2% of the population owns 90% of the world's wealth. We could have free energy for all the people, free education, but it's not profitable to the global bankers, and everybody's tired of it, and that's why we're here. The government does not represent the people anymore. They don't. The government works for us. We don't work for the government, and they're not representing our interests. Look at the HST. 90-something% of the population didn't want it, and here we are with a brand new tax. Our senior citizens are losing their homes, can't afford prescriptions, education. Women don't have the right to choose anymore. People are tired of it. The G20 was an opportunity for us to stand up and say we've had enough. National Nonprofit Party, man, it's a change. It's a coalition of a bunch of different groups, bunch of different people. We're not politicians. We're parents. We're normal, everyday people. I think it's time that the population stood up and said we're done.
Show me what democracy looks like.
That is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what democracy looks like.
That is what democracy looks like. Yeah. This is what democracy looks like. Hey, hey. This is what democracy looks like.
profitable, the anthem of the upper tier, puppeteer, untouchable, focus a moment, not in approval, bury our heads in the barcodes of these neo-colonials. A former nemesis, the romance of the nation state, numbers unraised for a new bed, I will concentrate, try again, but now we'll confuse what is class war. Is this class war? Yes, this is class war. And I'm just a kid, I can't believe I gotta worry about this kind of shit. What a stupid world. And it's beautiful, no regard for principle. What a stupid world. Born, hired, disposed, where that job lands. Everybody knows, you can tell by the smile on the CEO. Environmental restraints about to go. Even that laws will be set to ensure the benefit of unrestricted labor laws. Kept in place by displaced government death squad. They are us. They are us. Produce us. Consume us.
What do we want?
Justin Bieber! What do we want right now? Bieber! Bieber! Bieber!
Bieber! Bieber! Bieber! Bieber! Bieber! Bieber!
But we gotta talk about the politics. They pay money for the third stopper guys, like a million or might have been a billion. Yeah.
We've been busy today. Anyway, we had a good, joyous day yesterday, but today it's been a lot more tense. Certainly, we've sent a number of people to hospital. We've treated a bunch of injuries in the street. Just recently, we had the police retaking the intersection at college and university here, and in the process, a number of people were beaten with batons, pepper sprayed. So we're just dealing with the aftermath of that right now.
And how do you see what Toronto street medics are doing tied to broader health issues and involved around the G20?
Well, I mean, at the very least, we're providing healthcare to folks who don't have access to normal healthcare. I mean, aside from folks that are here that are street involved, that are undocumented, that have other barriers to healthcare. That what we do also does fit into a larger context. I mean, a lot of us are folks who are activists, particularly around healthcare issues and access to healthcare. And there's, it's a kind of a strong statement to say that we're going to come out and we're going to support those people that are putting their bodies on the line and putting themselves at risk to, to confront the G20.
They don't want us to be out here anymore.
We don't want to hear
In 20 minutes or so, someone's gonna come out and they're gonna read us a proclamation telling us that we have to go home. But we're not, you know what? We're not breaking any laws here. We're having a fucking dance party. So we're But it's important. The world is watching right now. We want them to see who we really are, which is we are peaceful protesters here in solidarity with our friends and family who were taken hostage by this racist state. When they try and take us, if they try and take us, just keep fucking dancing! Stay with your people, keep each other safe, do not instigate, do not retaliate, keep each other safe, look out for each other, okay?
You got them surrounded, right?
Yeah, they do have them surrounded.
So where are they supposed to go?
The police will make a decision as to whether we march south on the road or on the sidewalk. We're going to need to respect their call. When we get to Logan and Eastern, they will close the intersection for us. They will again make a call as to whether we will be marching on the sidewalk or on the road. Again, we need to respect that, and at that point we will negotiate with them the exact location where we will be staying opposite the jail.
I'm with you, and I'm with you in prayer. I'm a medicine person. My name is the Messenger Hawk. I'm with you in prayer. When I do my pipe later today, it'll be for all of you to march in a good way. Those who are in prison and those who are not. But try to keep it peaceful, okay? And listen, you're not just here, you're in the home of Turtle Island, First Nations. Do you understand?
Yes.
My name is the Messenger Hawk. I'm Ojibwe. My pipe is the Red Eagle. Do you understand? Try to keep it peaceful. Have some dignity and respect for people's property. And understand that everybody has a right to march. But we do not have a right to injure or hurt our private property of people. Do you understand?
Yes.
Chief McWetz, my brother. March in strength, march in a good way today.
Thank you.
And show the world you can do that. Chief McWetz, all my relations.
Thank you.
Solidarity!
Some of the most powerful leaders in the world are holding unaccountable meetings behind 3 layers of security fence. Layers of security fence that were constructed and conceived by a Canadian-based corporation called SNC Lavalin, which between 2003 and 2005 produced millions of bullets for the US military as they occupied and invaded Iraq. So it's a corporation that's inherently tied to the military-industrial complex. And now in Toronto, we're seeing a marriage, a very unholy marriage between the military-industrial complex and a systemic attempt to crack down on dissent here in Canada.
Everybody sing it all together! Solidarity!
Fire extinguisher.
This is an inspector. Oh, okay.
I'm presently on bail. My conditions are sort of a kind of a house arrest. I have a curfew. I'm not allowed to use a cell phone. I'm not allowed to use a laptop. I'm not allowed to participate in protests, including planning them. I'm not allowed to.
And that's not just unlawful protests?
Yeah. Any public demonstration. I'm not allowed to assist in them or be present at them. There is. What else? I can't associate with a whole bunch of people. If this happens, it's $55,000, and I can't leave the house without an adult designate. So, I mean, the impact is on myself, and the impact is on my community, right? It's a way to reprimand people.
Conspiracy charges are about as serious as it gets in terms of political charges. Conspiracy is a very broad charge, and it has proven effective over and over again in Canada, in the U.S., and in England at targeting activists, because it really criminalizes the planning of collective action, and it's easy to twist legitimate organizing into potential criminality under the conspiracy laws.
And the whole purpose was to scare people, to scare away, because they thought this would go public and people would stay home, but they didn't. And that's what I'm really proud of the city for, all of it, like all the people out there who refused to be scared, who kept coming out again and again and again and again on the streets. And if nothing else, right, the one thing we've succeeded in doing is collectively reminding ourselves about our collective power.
So today we said we fought for and we won the right to speak, the right to assemble. The right to protest. And Stephen Harper is not going to shut the fuck us up. We won't shut the fuck 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 up.
I was in the prison for almost 24 hours. And right next to me was a young girl, 17 years old. There were strip searches, and in my cell, women were asked to bend down and spread their legs. That 17-year-old girl was made to pee in front of the people. She had no one to stand in front of the stall. I don't think I'm going to talk too much more. It's quite emotional, but I want to make sure that we redirect this energy and we remember who it is that is the problem. The people behind the fence, the people who make these policies.
The pattern of detention, I think, was really quite egregious. And by we I mean the MDC, had originally been told as part of a training of legal aid lawyers that the PPC, the Prisoner Processing Center, the temporary detention facility down on Eastern Avenue, wasn't going to be used for overnight, was not going to hold people overnight. That they basically told us we don't have the facilities for it, there's no beds, it's not meant to be an overnight holding facility. Our plan is to arrest people, charge them, and then release them as quickly as possible. That is basically the complete opposite of what actually happened.
On Saturday, we had been hearing things like our friends were taken, so-and-so was taken from a street corner. There's some magical list that the cops are working from, and none of us knew, who was on this list. So it was really frightening, not just in the sense that, okay, I'm on the street and I'm protesting and there's lots of cops around. They can find me anywhere and come and take me.
They held people for 26, 36, approaching 48 hours there, often without phone calls, and in conditions that have universally been described as inhumane. True to form, there were no beds. They're basically cages made of chain link fence that divided this gigantic film studio into 50 10 by 10 cells.
In another part of the city, another door is kicked in. People walk in, guns drawn, arrest 3 other people. And then from there, this rollout happens. So for me, around 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting phone calls being 5 people arrested here. At 6 o'clock in the morning, I got a phone call. It's hey, this door has been kicked in, this person's arrested. At 6:30, another call, this door has been kicked in, there's been an arrest. And then some people have glanced and they think that there's a whole list of names on it. And people are turning themselves in. Turn to my right, black family van. Turn to my left, black family van. Absolutely the same order, looking at these 2 really large men staring at me. This is odd. Call a cab, jump in. As soon as we jump in the cabs, 2 cars, they just block us. The door is yanked open, somebody grabs me, pushes me to the back of the car, handcuffs me, puts their hand around me, punches the side of my head, my ear is bleeding, I'm thrown into a car, we're off. And they're just screaming at me. It's an unmarked van, nobody said, oh, police, nothing. Not even, I know I'm under arrest because they have handcuffs, but that's about all there is to it.
after jail solidarity, where everything kind of went haywire, Sunday evening I had a CP24 cameraman come up to me and say, "Oh, when I saw you marching to the jail on Sunday morning, you know, and you were holding your friend's hand and you were crying and you were clearly, you know, you were just walking. It really affected me. It really affected me. I realized you were there and you were just peaceful." And, you know, part of me is like, well, that's just great. I'm glad my crying face turned something in your, you know, black heart. But another part of me was like, if you're someone who sees this kind of thing, and you've been documenting this all week, and it's taken like this moment to get through to you, then that's a good thing.
Not only do we need to make demands and actually create and take back what they're taking from us, we also have to create alternatives. We have to, if we're going to talk about a country, a city, a community, and a planet where there will be no criminalization of dissent, then we have to disarm the police. We have to get rid of them. That means we have to start talking about how we're going to build accountable communities. We're going to talk about a world where the elites don't run it, and the people must run it. And so we have to talk about how are the people going to do that? How we're going to educate ourselves. And these are not new questions. These are questions that people have taken up. And that's what our struggles are about. It's about continuing the ongoing fight for freedom, for dignity, for justice, for peace. And I think that work has to continue. It is continuing. It's not a question of choice.
And we fought and we won a charter of rights and freedoms that put in the Constitution our right to speech, that